Okay, now, we're talking today about past life regression. There have already been a number of speakers who have talked about past life regression at this conference, including my new best friend, Norma, who, thank you so much for what you did for me yesterday.
I didn't do anything. I was there because I was supposed to be.
Yes, and say your last name. You are Dr. Norma.
Hour back, as in turn the clock an hour back.
An hour back,
That's
thank
my
you.
college students.
Yeah, yeah. Brilliant, brilliant. And the reason I say that is because people want to know about past life regression for one of two reasons. One of them, they're curious, and they just want to know if they've lived before and what it was like and were they Cleopatra. So, you know, that's kind of fun and that's kind of interesting, but that wasn't what I was up to. And if you refer to your handout, you will see some of the reasons, some of the real reasons, or things that I call the real reasons, why people come. And if you want to...
Is there more handouts?
Yeah, they're right up here, so come help yourself. Or April, if you'd like to take those back. Do you have some kind of crippling phobia or irrational fear that you've suffered all your life from but don't know why? I did.
I would.
And here was my crippling fear. I had a fear that I would never live past 50. I knew from the time I was 3 years old that I would be dead by the time I was 50. Well, my daughter will be 50 next month. So, hello, I made it. Ta-da! But here's the thing. I would have these visions of myself in a casket, even though my preference would be to be cremated. And I was having a reoccurring, I guess you would call it a nightmare, where I'm escaping from a concentration camp and being murdered. So one day I told my daughter about this nightmare. My daughter was about 14 at the time, and she burst into tears. And she said, you know, Mom, I've been having that same dream for about 3 years, from the time she was 9 or 10. So we didn't know what to do with it. We had no clue as to, I mean, we both knew that we were connected. We knew that we were uncommonly connected for mother-daughter, even though I had her very young, and we kind of grew up together. But we were really, we could almost read each other's minds. So there happened to be this woman named Gertie in Ventura, and Gertie was, she wasn't a hypnotherapist that I remember, but perhaps she was. So I said to my daughter, why don't we go to Gertie, but we don't want to go together because, you know, I wasn't a believer. I didn't know if this was hocus pocus stuff. So my daughter went first, and about 2 weeks later, although I was chomping at the bit, about 2 weeks later, I went, and Gertie told us the same story. She said, I don't know what's going on here, but you and another client that came to see me 2 weeks ago have the same story. Are you related? And I said, I'm not going to answer that question until we get through the whole story. So Gertie told both my daughter and myself that we had been in a concentration camp or some sort of a prison in the tropics. So we don't know if it was exactly where it was, but it was in the tropics. And that one night we decided to escape together. We were not related. We didn't even know each other, except that I can remember holding her hand, running through the forest, or the tropical, you know, whatever you want to call it, and then hearing the dogs chasing us. And my daughter could hear them too, and it's like, I would say, here they come. And she would, oh Mom, I hear them. And we would break into a sweat. And then what we felt next was we're diving under some leaves, and the dogs are on us, and we're being stabbed to death by bayonets. And that was it. We had exactly the same memory. Exactly. So we talked to Gertie a little bit about it, and she said, it's a past life. Well, I'm never satisfied with one story. I have to go back and get everything I can possibly suck up. So I went back and I said, are there any more? Now, in that past life, I was like in my early 20s. So I'm in my early 20s, and my daughter, who was not my daughter in the dream, was also in her early 20s. So we were the same age. So I went back to Gertie and I said, what else? What else did I do? Because I don't feel like I'm going to live past 50. So she told me 2 more past lives. One of them I was, I think in Persia, but I wasn't very smart and I didn't know geography, and so, but I was pretty. And I was 13 and my parents were poor and they sold me to whoever the potentate or the king or the ruler was at the time, who was also very young. And we had this great fun time running through the palace and you know, playing together because we were kids. Until I was 16, at which time I got pregnant. And I died in childbirth. So I died at 16. Now, interestingly enough, in this life, I had my daughter at 16. There's all these little connections,
Wow.
which I couldn't explain. The next life that Gertie said I had was, I was in Ireland, and I was a school teacher, and I'd met my husband. We were both in our early 20s, and again, you know, it was back far enough that you don't have names for things like, was it the plague or was it the, you know, whatever, the pox. But I looked at my husband one day, we're standing in the barn, I can see the whole picture, and I looked at him and all of a sudden I realized whatever that disease was, it was all over him. And I saw my husband's skeleton come through his skin, and I knew that he was going to die then, which he did. And I can see us sitting on a bale of hay, and I'm rocking him, and I've got his head in my arms, and he died in my arms. And I followed him about 20 minutes later, again, in my early 20s. So all of these past lives were proved to me in some sort of way that I wasn't going to live past 50 in this life. That was my big fear. You came in a little after I told my fear. Until yesterday when I found out why, and you gave me the key. So again, I thank you so much.